This is the Big Fish Cares Podcast. Big Fish Cares Podcast. And here's your host, Benny Fisher.
Everyone knows that I've been doing this summer series where I've been interviewing some of my friends that I've met in the V-Friends community, and today's no different. I have a special guest, David Matheny, with us, better known, though, in the NFT world and on Twitter as Danger Dave. What's going on, Danger Dave?
Everybody, thank you for the invitation and being here, and I'm excited to be able to talk about NFTs and what's going on in the world.
Yeah, man, it's VCon was a special place, and I know that's where me and you got to really connect. You know, I knew we talked a little bit on Discord and Twitter, but when you actually get to put like real life faces and bodies and tone and language and all that together in a room, it's really got an impact. And I know we had some good conversations at the satellite event, Sal LaGuardia satellite event. And I still have some of that content. But why don't we tell the viewers at home a little bit about who you are? Just start from the beginning. Like, where were you born? How'd you grow up? Just give us a little backstory.
All right, yeah, sure. My name is obviously David Matheny. I was born in West Virginia, Fairmont, West Virginia, a small town up in the mountains. And we moved to Florida, Orlando, Florida, when I was 8 years old. Dad and family were coal miners back in West Virginia, and we moved to Florida for opportunity, and I think that was like 1989 or so. So did that, and that was an amazing move for our family. We were able to establish economic growth there, and the educational systems for me and my sister were great. So really put us on a path to really do some cool things later on in life.
So West Virginia is cool because, you know, I'm here in Pittsburgh, so I have a lot of listeners that are going to be more Pittsburgh, southwestern Pennsylvania. Maybe there's some people in West Virginia. So now you're getting really close to home now. Talk about that move.
Yeah, Pittsburgh. I gotta say a little shout out to Pittsburgh. I'm all the way back to my father when I was a kid took me to Three Rivers Stadium. So that's how far we go back with Pittsburgh, the old Pirates and the Steelers and the Penguins.
Did you go to all the games? Did you go to a Pirates game and a Steelers game, or were you only there once? Did you go there a bunch of times?
I went a couple of times as a kid, but that was mostly the Pirates games, though, and that was back in the day with the Bobby Bonilla and the Barry Bonds.
That was when Barry Bonds was a skinny dude.
Guys.
Remember?
Yeah, real skinny actually. Yeah, completely back in the day. But yeah, that we go way back there.
Because we're probably, how old are you?
I am 42.
And I'll be 41 this year, so we're the same generation. So that's awesome. What was it like for you to pick up and move from where you're comfortable at in West Virginia and the country and the mountains and say, well, we're going to Orlando, Florida. What was that like as an 8-year-old to experience that?
You know, that's the thing. I was at a good age for that kind of transition. I was young enough to where, my friendships and relationships, I was able to transition without too much, pain and heartache. You still have those relationships, but at that age, you definitely can transition a little bit easier. So, going from West Virginia to Florida, when you get there and you get the pools and the ocean and the lakes, there's a lot of fun new beginnings that we never got to experience. So that kind of helped the transition ease in a little bit.
So your dad was a coal miner. Did your mom work?
Yeah, she was at a factory, was assembly line doing like light bulbs with Westinghouse, and hated her job. I mean, just hated it. And so both of them, they were very hard workers, but just the economics there just really wasn't, providing them the income that they wanted. So they tried, and just when it really wouldn't go together after the coal mines laid off, and then, tried like UPS and different things. My mother's parents moved down to Orlando, so they decided, since we have an established relationship there, let's take a chance. And it worked out exactly like they wanted it. Within a couple months, he was able to get a commercial electrician's license job. And, they just built from the bottom up. He started from the base as an electrician and ended up basically the head of OUC lighting division at the end. So worked from the bottom to the top. And same with my mom. She went there and always had a dream of being a teacher. So in her 30s, she went back to school, graduated from UCF while taking care of kids and a wife and a husband, and was also at the same time even doing substitute teaching. So then after that, got her degree and then was able to get right into teaching, which was kind of her dream job in second grade. And she just really thrived in that. So, you know, it was just two people that they needed the opportunities. And once the opportunities were there, they were able to really thrive. And it really changed my whole family's trajectory and you know, put me and my sister on a completely different
I was
path.
just getting ready to ask you, did you have any siblings? So tell us a little bit about your sister. Is she older, younger?
A little bit younger, 5 years younger than me. So, yep.
3, so she don't even know West.
Yeah, no, she doesn't even remember that. No, you get the pictures, you know how it is. You look back in the snow and stuff, but yeah, the memories aren't there.
Right. She just remembers Mickey Mouse. And there
Yeah,
you go.
yeah.
What was your,
The pools.
what was your, Disney World? Like, when was the first time you ever made it to Disney World?
You know, I can't even remember the first time, but growing up in Orlando, it was kind of like, especially back in the day, we always found ways to get free tickets. Whether it was, you know, you knew somebody that worked there, or I remember there was times we would volunteer with the Boy Scouts and get free tickets. And there was, I mean, one time we volunteered and I was actually on the stage there at Epcot on July 4th with Lee Greenwood and Sandy Patty doing the whole song, and was there with the first President Bush. So that was kind of a cool thing. But it was back in the day where we could do things or know people, and we would always end up getting some kind of free tickets. So, you know, we didn't always end up there once or twice a year or something. And, you know, there was just always ways to kind of do it back in the day.
I always wonder because, you know, it's always a mystique for us people that don't live in Florida, right? It's like, oh, that's like the, you know, for a kid, it's like, oh, that's like the Taj Mahal. But when you live in Orlando, you eat, sleep, and breathe it. They jam it down your throat, I'm sure. Everything you drive by, traffic this, traffic that, Mickey Mouse everywhere. Is it still just as magical, or does it lose a little bit of its muster?
Yeah, I mean, for us, the good part is if you look at Orlando, it's a pretty big city, and Disney World is kind of in the southwest corner, and we were in the northeast corner. So, I mean, for us to even get to Disney World was about a 45-minute hour drive.
I've been by on a random Tuesday, and like, you know.
Exactly. And so it was kind of like they had that whole tourist corridor down there. And, you know, we were kind of, you know, in the local environment with suburbia life.
And they just keep, I mean, I'm sure, I don't know the whole history of Orlando, but it just keeps growing and growing. And there's more, you know, it's like the theme park capital of the world. And they just, you know, like Universal. And I know I just took my son, Sammy, who's 8, coincidentally. I took him on a little guys trip where me and him went to Legoland for a day. And then we went to Universal for a day. And, you know, Legoland was a little bit of a letdown compared to Universal, but that's why I did Legoland first.
Sure.
And then
there you go.
Universal, you know, because he's at that age now where he's almost like too old for Legoland, you know, especially now that he's seen Universal.
Right,
He'll probably
sure.
never want to go back to Legoland. Yeah, that's cool, man, growing up in Orlando. So tell me about, you know, high school. Tell me about, did you go to college? Tell me about what that trajectory looked like and what you got yourself into there.
Yeah, went, grew up in Orlando basically, so finished out my elementary, middle, and high school there. Graduated from Winter Park High School. An amazing school, an amazing area. Really, really, really good program. And then went on and we did a little bit of community college just to kind of see what was going on. Took a little bit of time off, and then that's when I went to film school. So did Full Sail University there, got my degree in film and video, and that kind of put me on that trajectory to get into the television and film world as a career.
What prompted that? Any inspiration when you were young? Is that something you've always wanted to do when you when you were 10 years old? Did you want to start doing that? What prompted that?
No, it really wasn't. It was, you get into college and you're trying to figure out careers and what you want to do. And, I'm looking around at a lot of different things here and there. And one of the things was trying to figure out a career that would also longevity be kind of fun, And so there was a local film school in Winter Park called Full Sail. And a friend of mine was doing a tour of it. And so I got on that tour because, I was interested in that anyways. And by doing all that, I was just blown away by the equipment and the programs and everything. So that kind of then just started me on a deep rabbit hole that I'm still in today.
42 and still in the rabbit hole. But that's a fun and exciting, rabbit hole to be in, because, a lot of us, especially again in the Midwest, we get stuck in our ways. We get, our parents just say, go get a job, go get something stable. Your parents were from that era. What was it like when you told your mom and dad that you wanted to go to film school? And we're talking about a coal miner turned into a commercial electrician, which, still very hardworking trades type of mentality. What was that like when they said little Davey wants to go be a filmmaker?
I am very lucky that I have two amazing supportive parents. But you could tell that, it wasn't probably their first choice. They would have definitely something, a little bit more of a stable occupation with a better risk reward of the future. But they supported me and they want me to be happy. And that's the way I looked at it. I said, I've got to figure out some way to earn money. And out of all the ways to earn money, I said, this looks like a kind of a pretty fun and enjoyable way to do it. And, it's turned out that way. I've definitely had a really good time along the way. And, So, graduated, I think it was 2001. 2001 there at film school in Orlando. Worked a couple months in freelance, did some, just some Universal pet Olympic type gigs here and there. And then got on actually with a local TV station in Orlando. It was back in the day a WB affiliate, WB18. But got my foot in the door there. And it was just kind of a perfect scenario because they were doing this brand new technology there. And so they were basically pioneering this new technology. So I almost accidentally just kind of got my foot in the right place at the right time and started learning this technology and realized quickly, this is where the entire industry is going. So I knew if I could have some experience in it, I then would have experience that nobody else had. And that's exactly what I did. After a good 12, 14 months there, I started looking around at other places, and NBC in Miami was doing the same thing. They were trying to pioneer this technology. So considering that there was nobody with any experience, somebody coming with any experience, they were very, very happy to be able to use my expertise. And so, at 23 years old, I packed up my bags and moved to South Beach, Miami, and started a Miami life for 6 years with NBC.
So it's kind of interesting, full circle, now that, both of me and you are both into NFTs, and that's the new technology. And 20 years ago, you're like, oh, into new technology. What was this technology in film? Do you and keep it, for the people at home, don't get too technical.
No, it's really easy. Basically, the couple areas that we pioneered was, one, we took all of the way that we played out video and TV from a video tape to servers. So we went, from all kinds of different tapes, different size tapes, to hard drives that obviously everybody knows now. But back then, to have that size, was unheard of. And then with that, we added two more components. At that time, the only way to transmit video any type of way was with satellite. And so at this time, we started having fiber optic cable that had large enough bandwidth that we could stream or that we could send live video. So the way that we were sending and receiving video changed from satellites to fiber optic. The way we were playing video changed from tapes to servers. And then lastly, how the videos were played out of each station changed, as when it used to be there would be one group of people at each station and they would control basically how everything played out. And we changed it over to automation with computer systems, that the computer systems would play it out to where instead of one group of people, we could run 10, 20, 30 or more TV stations with one group of people from one location using automation. So that was what we really pioneered, was those three things. And then also later on, the moving from SD over to HD.
That's, that's kind of cool when you think about the history of TV, film, movies, all that stuff from all the way in the early 1900s, right? Full circle, 100 years later. Here it is. Our we know him as Danger Dave was out there being a pioneer. Now, how does that all, like, were you more, so you're a behind the scenes kind of guy with like the whole TV film, like when you got into college and you went there for film, like what was your vision of like what you wanted to do before you got there? Like, and did it change as you kind of learned about the industry?
For me in school, I kind of always wanted to be in production, being on set, kind of being producer type stuff. But then when you get out of college, I needed a paycheck and my foot in the door. So, and if you come out to Hollywood, you're probably going to be making coffee and working for free for 5 years. So it's a long road. And that local TV station, Orlando, because of this new technology, they were expanded and they needed more bodies. They were people that just graduating from film school. We actually had the experience they were looking for. So it was just kind of a perfect timing there with graduation and this new technology and being in the right place of just being in Orlando where there was this group of people pioneering this.
So, I mean, like, so we have like, Hollywood, everybody knows Hollywood, right? That's where everything became famous. We have New York where, they do a lot more TV in New York, right? Lots of movies in Hollywood. And then you have Orlando, right? I'm assuming, and again, I'm making a lot of assumptions here because I'm not into the space like you are, but, there's theme parks, Universal's there, there's got to be more production than, West Virginia or Pittsburgh, I can tell you that.
Yeah, I mean, definitely more than there. They tried to ramp it up in the beginning with Nickelodeon and things, but it didn't work out that well. So, yeah, exactly. And, they used to, down there at Universal, you could go and see live tapings back in the day.
Okay, yeah, so it was actually like a studio, kind of like what they do out in what you see in Hollywood. They were trying anyway, right?
But most of that, if it's not in LA or New York, a lot of it now is in Atlanta. There's a lot there in Atlanta. Huge there. And, there's definitely still some in Orlando, but it's not nearly the size of any of the other markets.
Able to, obviously cut your teeth, do whatever jobs you had to do, figure it out just to survive. And then I'm assuming, when you told the parents that, hey, I'm getting out of Orlando, I'm heading to South Beach. What was that conversation like with?
Oh, they were very proud because, at that point, I was now going to go work for NBC, GE, and we had the largest stations in the market. We were the O&O company. I was also with Telemundo. And, at that point being 23, the salary definitely didn't match most 23-year-olds. So they were just really happy that, within a year and a half from graduation that I was already successful and doing well. So, of course, mom doesn't want to lose her baby, but 3.5 hours away, you can still drive it. It's not that bad.
Yeah, it's like...
Yeah. Yes. Yep. Yeah, it was perfect for your 20s because you got both of those worlds. You had that space, but you could still, you needed a little home cooking. It was there. Oh yeah. No. But that's what I mean was, you were still far enough. You could still hit the Hollywood, the holidays, and different occasions.
That's awesome. So talk to me about the journey from, like what's some like cool stuff that you did in your early 20s, production wise, things that you got to see, people you got to meet. Tell us some stories.
Oh man. That was an amazing time in Miami because we had a news studio there. So we had people come in for the news broadcast. Plus we had an hour morning show. So there was always different celebrities rolling through and different activities. But I'll tell you what was really cool was just being in the environment. I was at that age. I'm living in South Beach. I'm working with NBC. And it was a really fun, cool time. Everybody was happy. Life was good. We were living on the beach. That time we got to, I did 3 Olympic Games. So broadcasted 3 Olympic Games. I think it was like Athens, Greece, maybe Singapore, and then something else. And then I actually got to go to London for 6 weeks for that Olympic Games. So that was fun. Yeah, I think that was it. So yeah, some of those in there. I did every sporting event you can imagine, from NHL to NBA to, the baseball, and all the big wins, from, the World Series to the Super Bowl to the, any of them. And what's interesting is it's kind of like when Broadway actors, they talk about the difference of being on live stage versus, being a tape recorded. It's a lot of like that even in TV world, where, when things are live, the pressure and the hype is so much bigger. So when you're doing these major things of, like, say, even the Super Bowl, and, 30 seconds is millions of dollars, it's really interesting to see, how professional and how good people are, and just, where they really separate the people. So it's kind of an amazing experience to be part of.
It sounds awesome. So here's a little fun fact about me that probably a lot of our listeners, definitely I know you don't know. I'd say most of the people even that know me don't know this. When I grew up, when I was, 10, 11, 12 years old, I was a big sports fan, right? Baseball. I grew up in Canton, Ohio, and I was a big Cleveland Indians fan. That was during the 90s, right? And when the World Series would come on, I really love Bob Costas. And we all know that Bob Costas was a big NBC guy, Olympics, World Series, just about anything was happening in sports, Bob Costas was doing it. And I always thought to myself, like, I want to be like Bob Costas when I grow up. And then, then John Madden was like popular. And I was like, yeah, that's me. Like, I'm not an athlete. Nobody's ever going to mistake me for an athlete. But I always wanted to be like that guy. But then when I finally got to high school, and I realized, all right, everybody's pressuring me to go to college. And I guarantee you, if I tell them I want to go to college to be a broadcaster, everybody's going to laugh at me. And, even if I do go to college and make it through the 4 years of sitting still and listening and taking the test, then there's still a really, really long shot of me becoming Bob Costas. I mean, at the time, there's probably only 10 celebrity sportscasters. This is before the age of social media, right, the internet, and all this stuff. There's 3 networks, right? CBS, NBC, Fox, I feel like, ABC.
Right.
So 4 networks. And but that was my dream. And then how I kind of satiated that a little bit is my church. I went to this big church in Canton, Ohio called Canton Baptist Temple, and they had 5 camera live feed. Somehow they set something up with the local station, and Jonathan Wilson was a member of the church, and his brother David Wilson was in some TV production. I can't remember exactly all the stuff that he did, but on Sundays, man, they ran it a mini version of what you're talking about. And I remember being the cameraman. They had remote control cameras. This is back in the late 90s. So I'm happy. I mean, this is fun stuff, right? I get to go in their production room. They're still editing tape on 1-inch reels. And I had producers, I had a headset on like this. I'm working the joystick. And of course, because I was a kid, video games, I love that part. And all the old guys, this was new technology. And they were they let me do it. And I got to hear, oh, take this guy. We're going to this camera. Hey, Ben, zoom in over here. Oh, go get the choir shot. It was fun, man. It was exhilarating. It was awesome. And I put that on the back burner for so many years because I just realized, I don't know, I guess I gave up on my dreams because I assumed the world told me I couldn't do it, or it just wasn't possible, because I didn't see what I see now, obviously. And now here I am. I got my own equipment in here. I got my own little sound. I can shoot my own content. You saw some of the stuff that I was doing. I'm in my glory days, just creating my own content and having a lot of fun.
Awesome.
But guys like you are you guys did it for a career. You're doing it for a career, and you've done it for a long time, and that's so cool, man. I felt like I was led to share that because that's a cool thing, especially when you say NBC.
It's funny you say that. How many people got cut their teeth at the church video equipment, right? Because it's true. It's where a lot of people got that exposure. And it started before the internet because, they were trying to beam them on the big screens. But then once they added the internet, then they're trying to then send them out. But I know so many people that was their introduction, and they got the taste of it just like you. And you hit the nail on the head. That live thing, it's so exhilarating.
Christmas play. And I remember like, I remember being there for a rehearsal, and we would rehearse the camera angles and the movements, and when the choir is going to do this, and when the actors were going to do this, and when the manger scene was over there, and like there's all this stuff happening, and we have all the scripts and everything. And I was like, and again, you just like, if I don't do it, nobody else is going to do it. Right. Like, and it's like if I can't screw this up. And we took it super serious. And I always had a passion for it. And I was always kind of sad, like when I then flew the coop and then like stopped going to church as much and wasn't involved. And I always missed it. And I remember my first introduction to anything TV and broadcast wise. And it's funny that you said your mom was a teacher. There was Al Rizzoletti, Mr. Rizzoletti, in I think 6th grade. I was at Pfeiffer Middle School. And they were starting a video department, and we had this program called Channel 1, Whittle. I don't know if you ever remember, if you had that when you were in school, because we're the same age. It was national. Anderson Cooper would come
like
on the
video
TV.
product.
It was a program that they sold, like it was a program that they sold like school systems to like put TVs, and then like they used this Channel 1, and it was called Whittle, and you can look it up. But I remember Anderson Cooper was actually, that was when he was like in college, and that was like one of his first things that he ever did. And there was a couple other people that made it in broadcasting that actually started on this little thing where they were broadcasting to kids' schools. And then because we had all that equipment, then the school was able to then like try to make their own content. And I remember I was behind the scenes for that, and I remember learning how to edit videos back then on like these big honky decks, and you put the 2 VHSs in, and you'd have mixers and stuff, and that's little Benny Fisher's thing, and it was just always stuck there. And then I got so busy working and then building my business the last 7-8 years, and it's just like I tried to do a little social media here and there with Facebook Live and stuff. But over the past 6 months, because of the NFT space and because of Gary Vee, which we become friends through, I've been able to kind of get that back now, and I feel like so energized because I'm like trying to finally turn my passion into maybe somewhat, I'm trying to figure out how if I can turn it into a profession. People know me as a successful contractor, but at the end of the day, I'm all about building experiences, right? And I want to circle back to you about like, where did you go from like Miami and then to what you're doing now, and tell me about that journey, because now you have a family, right?
Yeah, that's a heck of a tale, and I'll definitely try to give you the Reader's Digest version. So in 2009, NBC basically they outsourced all of their departments that were doing operations. So it was everything that was owned and known in Miami, New York, and LA. And so they outsourced it to a third-party company. So they basically closed down all of those divisions. And I could have either gone to work for one of these other companies or New York or LA. But I always had a dream of traveling the world. And I knew that if I didn't take this chance that, the next job I'd probably be at until I retired. So at 29, I decided to travel the world. And I had about 3 or 4 months until I had to leave. So I went to Africa for 10 weeks and did a trip there, volunteer trip in Zambia, another one in Haiti, and that was about a year after the earthquake. And then had about 2 or 3 months of free time, so got my real estate license and sold 3 houses in Orlando. And that was after the 2008 crash. So you couldn't have done that in a worse time, but I had a couple months to kill, so, nothing to do. And sold 3 houses, and then packed up and went to Costa Rica and spent the next 3 years traveling the world. Went to 25 plus countries on 5 of the 7 continents. The first year did a year's worth of university level studies, mostly humanitarian type studies and community building. And then did another year where I led university groups around the world. And we would take the students so they could take the information they learned and put it to practical use in the field. We did that and traveled all over. Yeah, please.
Trying to picture this in my head. So you still don't, obviously you haven't had the family hasn't come into the picture yet, correct?
Nope, not yet.
All right. So how does someone in their towards your late 20s?
I've been 29.
Yeah, so your late
29,
20s, NBC is like, yeah, you want to go venture the world. Did you just have enough money saved up to where like you're just like, screw it, I'm just gonna like get outside? Because there's not that many people that I know that just like blow up like everything and say, oh, I'm just gonna go travel. Like, what was there
it's a combination. I mean, the purpose was I've always dreamed of doing it, and I knew if I didn't do it then, I would never be able to do it because the responsibility would have gotten away. And I remember when I was younger, there was somebody that told me a saying that I thought was interesting, and I found it to be true, is you will never regret traveling. And so that kind of always stuck with me, and I always wanted to travel the world but never had the chance. And so I felt like this was my chance, and if I didn't, who knows if I'd honestly get another one, just the way career and life goes. And so it was just kind of like, now or never. And I just was like, you know what, screw it. Now let's do this. And it was a combination of savings, money even from those houses.
Any side hustles while you're out traveling the world? I mean, were you able to like...
You couldn't even understand. So I had I was actually collecting unemployment. So I had that also with my... Right. And I also had a severance package. So I had that and that. And then that was after the 2008 debacle. So I actually ended up getting that extended. So that helped that. And then I also, because I had been doing this since I was about 16 years old, I had a network of sponsors that I would do short-term trips on. But it was just a network that I'd been, built for probably at least 15 plus years. So I reached out and built that up, and built that also.
Tell me more about what that means.
And then, like you said,
network of sponsors, like what, like.
Basically, I've grown up in the church. My family, I was growing up in the Methodist church. Now I'm in the non-denominational world, but growing up in the Methodist church, and just started when I was probably 10, 11, 12, that kind of young age, doing the going on a Saturday feeding the homeless, or going to the soup kitchen, or handing out blankets, or just different things locally. And then in high school, I would start to do these things, but we would go to other states, right? Maybe during the summer for maybe a couple days.
Little
or a week.
Youth trip, youth group trips. Yeah, I grew up in a church, Baptist church, very similar. And then we did a couple mission trips and.
Well, and then that's where, when I was 16, my first one was international. That's when I went to Costa Rica. So, then we started doing more and more. Well, and it just, it developed a passion of mine, and it was a heart of mine of just, I really understood what it meant to give of yourself and to help others, and to what you got in return when you really, truly changed somebody's life. So that really changed me, and it got me on a path that I wanted to do that more and more.
So people, when you say sponsors.
So I grew that network, and we would go for like a week at a time, and we would send out lots and lots of letters to people that we had relationships, and would ask for donations to do these different things. Right. Well, and I had. Exactly. And so, and we're not going on vacation. So, exactly.
Well, I remember going to the Yucatan in Merida.
Yes.
And I did that back-to-back years in 2001 and 2002, I think, or 2000 and 2001. And I remember thinking, and again, we stayed at a decent hotel. It wasn't like we were in the villages, but we went to the villages and we passed out tracts. And I remember I had my little camcorder that my mom bought me for graduation. So I was a filmmaker, you know what I mean? But those are memories that, I'll never ever forget. Yeah. And I'm assuming it's probably led to some different things in my life. So it sounds like it's definitely led to a big part of who you are.
Oh yeah, no, exactly. So that shaped me, and that, and just built that network over, years and years, and if not decades. And then, reached out to that, and with email and things, we had contact lists that we started to curate. And then in real estate, so I reached out to these people, but there were people that I had long-lasting relationships with. Myself, my parents, my family. So then when I came to them with this idea of doing this for a longer term, they knew my heart and my character, and it wasn't just hey, we just met you kind of a thing. So yeah, I mean, with, just many different streams of income. And then I was there, I was selling tickets on the side also. Because the internet, I was buying and selling concert tickets, sporting event tickets, Olympic tickets, you name it. I was flipping it.
So you were like an online scalper.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I ticket scalped for 5 to 7 years.
You're like StubHub before the StubHub.
I was StubHub before the StubHub, and then I was StubHub during the StubHub. Both. So, yeah, I did that all the way up until a couple years ago when the market just came out because StubHub and Ticketmaster basically took over the entire secondary market themselves. So then it made it not any profitable anymore. And so that's when I switched more into clothing at that time, high-end clothing. And then, oh, yeah, I flipped high-end clothing for a while.
Like, give me some examples.
Big brands.
This is so interesting.
Off-White, anything Off-White, shoes, sneakerheads, Fear of God, Jerry Lorenzo, just anything that's supply and demand, right? It's like a flipper's supply and demand. And so if you learn how market dynamics work, you can do it in any field, right? I can do it in tickets. I can do it in clothing. Now I'm doing it in NFTs. It's the same thing. There's no different. It's just, understanding how these different markets work. And when you can play one of the games, you can play most of the games.
As we record this, the market's at the bottom. You're probably buying it all up. Probably scooping and scooping.
Not yet, because we are not at the bottom yet, and this is not financial advice, so I am not scooping yet. But I do know that there is going to be a nice bottom soon, and then that's when I'll start dollar cost averaging and make sure that I find that bottom nicely.
So tell me some of the coolest places that you got to go. So it's like you're almost like a missionary without like a final destination. Like a lot of missionaries that we know that like they raise support, then they go like spend their whole life in a country, and they have like they try to build a church. You wanted to kind of like bounce around and kind of go help out where you could.
Yeah, I was. My main base was in Costa Rica, and at the time I was with a group called YWAM. It's called Youth with a Mission. It's probably one of the second or third largest organizations in the world, so they're pretty big. But so basically what I would do is I would do about 3 months in Costa Rica, whether it was in San Jose or different parts of the country. And then I would do 2 months and travel the world. And so I did a lot of time in South America, Central America, Europe, just kind of all over. But that was kind of the caveat. I would do 3 months in Costa Rica, 2 months around the world, come back home maybe for 2 weeks, and then do it all over again. And did that cycle at least 4 or 5 times.
That's awesome. So what made you get back in, we'll call it civilian life? Did you ever get back to civilian life?
Well, that's when, I decided to kind of transition, and then that's when I ended up moving to New Zealand. So I lived in New Zealand for about 5 months and was going to do some TV work there, but just ran into certain visa issues and basically ended up wanting to come back to the States, looked at New York and LA, and because of the weather, I decided LA, here we come. And moved to LA about 8 years ago now.
So when you were, that's awesome. So, when you were in New Zealand, I think I might have told you this at VCon. The only thing I know about New Zealand is, it's the island northeast of Australia. And it's definitely its own country. It's not part of Australia. They get offended if you say that, right? And they have an amazing rugby team. And you're a sports guy.
All Blacks.
So did you get to go to any All Black games?
You know what? I didn't go to a game, but it's amazing how the entire country gets behind that team and that sport. And I did a couple different pubs, being in different pubs and bars during a game. And yeah, I'm not sure if any even international soccer team kind of rivals the All Blacks when you're in New Zealand. It's between rugby and yacht racing. It's kind of like their thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I read a book called Legacy, and it's 15 lessons in leadership, and it has to do with a gentleman who went to go witness what the All Blacks did, as a team. They're like the Yankees or the Patriots of like what we think of greatness in sports, right. But they're even greater. They have like a winning percentage of like 850 or something. Like we're talking lifetime. We're talking over decades, and the things that those guys do. One of the things that struck me in that book was, the superstar players aren't like the superstars that we think of in America. These guys are actually sweeping the locker rooms out, They call it sweeping the sheds, and they're doing the little things to make them great. And there's lots of parallels, right, in life and in business. And I just thought I'd share that with the audience because that book changed my life. That was the book that was the first book I actually ever read outside of when I was in school, like high school, or I don't even know if I read a book in high school, maybe like when I was a kid. But Legacy was the business book that really got me on this mission to read all kinds of more books about business, because that's when I first had a reason to read a book. Other than the Bible, I read the Bible as a kid growing up, and then I kind of put that on the shelf when I was 18, because it was like a lot of us, I just kind of rebelled a little bit, right? And, thought I knew it all about the Bible. And again, the Bible's a book that you can just always get more out of, right? Same thing with a book like this. It's you can read it again and find a little different, message in it based on where you're at in life. So talk to us about Southern LA, man. Talk, what was that like? What did you do there when you got grounded there? And I'm assuming.
Yeah, came out here and just loved it. I love the area and everything. So got out here, got my feet wet. Was over in Hollywood and Sherman Oaks, and was basically just trying to use all my networks to get a job. And Hollywood's probably one of the hardest industries to break in out here. So it was really tough, but I ended up scoring a job with E Network. It was E Entertainment Network, G4, and Esquire. The cable channels. So we were running the cable channels, both the ones for America and all of the international. So yeah, that got my foot in the door there. Did that for a little while, and then transitioned over to DirecTV and ended up running their entire SD division, which was, I don't know, probably about 300 stations at that time. So that was quite a feat.
Wow. So you're the guy, your actual role, it seems like it's kind of you're managing people, and you're also managing the transfer of information to get it to the state. Explain this to a lay person.
I used to say we do everything that makes sure that you get to watch what you want at home, right? And when I say everything, I mean everything. We work with every department, whether it's promotions, whether it's sales, whether it's to make sure that everything is done beforehand and then is also proper at the time. So, we prepare everything, all the video content, all the commercials, all the promos, all the scheduling, all the technical stuff, all the transmission, just every single aspect. We're kind of like the last stop shop. And so we prepare all that stuff beforehand, but then we're also responsible live when things happen. So if anything was to go wrong, well, then we're also responsible to fix it. So it's every step of it you could think of. Yes. And I will tell you, I'm not kidding you, if I showed you a picture of where I used to work at DirecTV, I used to describe it. It looked exactly like a NASA control room. I mean, walls of thousands of TVs and it looked like we were launching, and we really were controlling satellites. So I mean, but yeah, that's what they look like, with just every technical analyst you could think of that you need to be able to do your job.
And because there can't be that many people in the world that know how to do that stuff. So I mean, you have to, right?
Well, it's funny because there's a lot of people that will know how to do certain aspects of it, right? I could tell you, you could do certain aspects, but the overall thing is so many people and so many skills that nobody can really do it from A to Z, and then has the technology of multiple decades like I do. Right. I mean, that's the thing. So it's people can maybe do one part of it, but there's not a lot of it that can do all of it, so that's where I kind of can come in and just can really put out any fire that needs to be put out, but also can pre-plan everything beforehand.
It's problem solving with organization. You are a very finite resource because I know lots of my business partner at Big Fish Contracting, Rob Tokay. He's that same kind of mindset. It's like he knows how to solve problems, and he's super, super organized, and he knows how to just analyze the data. He also knows how to lead and execute, and it's fun to watch. Tell me a little bit about your family. Because I know you love your family. So tell me a little bit about where this family pops up out of nowhere.
I mean, I told you I moved here in LA about 8 years ago. So I met my wife about 6 or 7. So actually, I guess I probably moved to LA about 9 years ago then. So met her about 6 or 7, and we met her in Los Angeles. Online, like a lot of the kids do these days. And we have a funny story. We both lived in Costa Rica for 2 years. One of those years overlapped even, but had nothing to do with each other. And then when we look into it, we have many friends that are in common, both here in the States and in Costa Rica. So she was able to contact them before, really even getting to know me, to vet me and find out. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, yeah, we did. And I mean, friends that they seriously knew each other and hang out and had relationships. So, we started dating and went on that. But one of those fun little stories was about 3 months into when we were dating, we had a lot of similar stories and a lot of similar things that we did. But we're both looking through Facebook together on my page and looking at certain things. And she screams and says, "That's me." And so I have a picture of my wife 3 years before we ever met in Costa Rica.
You talk about manifestation, you talk about the metaverse, you talk about like all this crazy stuff. That is a cool story. And now we have it for the record now. So that's good.
Yeah, and it was right there. They have like their own Central Park there in San Jose, and she's just in the background. We were doing a similar
passing
event.
By like
we were both so we were both working with religious organizations, and we were putting on this big skateboarding event in downtown for all the young kids, and I was doing all the logistics for it, and she actually she's bilingual, did all the translating for the event. So I have pictures of, this 6 foot tall white lady in Costa Rica, which, that's not that common in Costa Rica.
That's not that common in America.
So when you, exactly. So when you go back through, it was a lot easier to pick out the 6 foot white lady in Latin America. So, but yeah, it was just serendipity moment,
Did she ever play for the LA Sparks? Was she ever in the WNBA?
No. She should do a little basketball or volleyball. But the fun thing is, because I'm over 6'2" and she's 6 foot, our oldest daughter is always 99th percentile of her height. And we live here in the volleyball capital of the world. So she definitely has a career ahead of her if she wants.
That'll be fun. I always it's one of the few when I watch the Olympics, that beach volleyball, that was always like, a fun thing to watch. And you live there at the
It's funny you say that. My next door neighbor here is actually on the beach volleyball Canadian women's team. So yeah, she's one of the the gold medal teams, my next door neighbor. But yeah, most of the pros live here.
See if Karch Karai can give your daughter some coaching.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what are you up to nowadays? Like, what are you into work wise? What's the future look like? Talk to me, Danger Dave. What's up?
Well, I was blessed. 6 years ago, I had my first daughter. Went on my 3-month paternity leave and decided never to go back. So ended up being a stay-at-home daughter for the next 4.5 years or so, and basically ended up building and growing my wife's private practice in lactation consultant. So that's been pretty successful, and did that on my side.
Soon. I got a baby coming. I got
exactly.
a little girl coming in September.
Exactly.
Does she do virtual?
She does virtual, she does phone, she does all of them. LALactation.com, and of course, we will take care of you, my friend.
All right. Yeah, Brittany's going to have to hook her up, yeah?
Yep.
Literally, going to have to get hooked up.
Yeah, literally. So, yeah, it's like she's thriving, and it's her passion, and it's so fun to watch her help moms and babies on the daily. So that's just amazing. But yeah, so, doing the business side of her end of that. And then about 16, 18 months ago, switched from kind of a day trading in stocks over to this whole thing called NFTs. And started that path. Got in that with the Gary V and the V Friends. And, just did that whole rabbit hole. Did lots and lots of research, lots and lots of education. And, ended up, I think it was last year in May, buying my first NFT, the Diamond-Handed Hen, a V-Friend, and that week bought 5 V-Friends, and it was funny, you were talking about that book, Legacy, and I couldn't agree more with Legacy, and that's why I bought the Spectacular Hollow Legendary Lemur, because I do think that Legendary and Legacy are a very important thing, and I think that's something that will be able to stay in the culture of America, or even the world. And then that went me down the rabbit hole of NFT investing and trading, and did that for the next 6 months of, day trading, flipping, holding, all kinds of things. And, went from 0 NFTs to over a couple hundred. And then after about 6 months in, decided, well, I guess it's time to start my own business in this industry. So we started 5149 Studios. And it's a NFT production studios company, and we are now working on our first NFT project called Foundations NFTs that will be probably out sometime in 2022, hopefully in August, but definitely sometime this fall.
So what is that project all about, and why are you doing it?
Yeah, so I don't want to get too many details because it's not public yet. No.
High level,
but
high level.
Of course.
Anything that you can share, we'd appreciate it.
No, we're going to share a lot.
The alpha.
Exactly. So you already heard about my passions with missions and giving back and international travel. So I've always wanted to do pastoral care and missions anyways, and I'm an entrepreneur, so I like to scale businesses. So I've always kind of had a passion in my retirement to be able to then be able to do pastoral care and to scale and help be resources to people that are already established doing community development around the world, helping individuals and groups. Instead of me going out there and inventing the wheel and inventing my own projects, partnering with people that are already doing it, already have inroads in the community, and being able to find out what their needs are and how can we scale and multiply what they're already doing. So with NFTs, I just saw a really big advantage to be able to not only fund those type of those missions and operations, but also to have an entire group of people to be able to have ownership and involvement with these things, whether they end up wanting to go in life or if they just want to have opportunities online and virtual. So what it'll be is basically you'll be able to buy these NFTs, and there'll be the mint price and then the royalties. And 51% of both the mint price and the royalties forever will be going to the nonprofits of both domestic and international. And they'll be helping Christian-based projects. We will then split that up into 2 folds. Half of it, 25%, will be controlled by our own nonprofit, and we'll distribute that in the different relationships we have. And the other 20%, 26% will actually be controlled and used by the community, by the NFTs. So that's what'll be fun is when you buy this NFT, you're actually funding charitable causes. And then you'll actually be able to have different levels of access depending on what involvement you want. Some people will just want to, make this donation, get this NFT, and walk away. And that'll be great, what they'll be able to do. Some people will want to have more online involvement. And so they'll want to be able to use our website and being able to have constant communication and ownership and direction on where the funds are going, how the funds are being used, different projects. And then they'll have that communication on how the actual, how it's being used and the actual effects of it. So you'll be able to see the actual numbers each week and each month of how the money's being used, whether it's being directed toward food and nourishment programs, or whether it's, helping younger people or education or family dynamics. You'll be able to then see, okay, well, we gave, $1,000 and we fed, 800 children. And then you'll be able to see that through pictures and video, and you'll be able to have, a constant communication so that you'll actually know where the money's going and how it's being used. There'll be complete transparency. And then you'll actually feel like you're being involved in it because you'll actually be able to have a voice of how it's directed and how it's being used, which that'll also, as a group, you'll be able to discover maybe new organizations that we want to partner with. And we'll be doing all kinds of things with that. So there'll be 3 different projects. We'll be doing cornerstones, capstones, and keystones. And it'll be each of them, the first 2 will be growing an IP, a religious Christian IP. And then the third one, you'll actually be able to go to these places that you'll be involved with in person if you want. So like you were saying, how we used to do like those summer trips for a week or 2. If you really got involved and you got a lot of interest with one of these organizations that we worked with, well, maybe you want to actually go and be able to visit them in life. So there's going to be all different levels of availability of how you want to be able to do that. So, that'll be fun. But it also, a big component of it will be education. So a lot of these people that we'll be bringing into this will be their first time into NFTs and into Web3. So we'll be doing a lot of education on just on the whole process and how to do it. And it'll come from a very trusted source so that you'll know that this education you can rely on and nobody will take advantage of you. And then after you feel confident and you've spent 1, 3, or 6 months, you then could leave our project and go outside into other projects with confidence on how to navigate the space. So, there'll be a big education component. And then lastly, there'll be an IP component because the first project will be 13 characters. It'll be Jesus and the 12 apostles. And then the second project will have about 100 of the biggest biblical characters. But they're all being done by our own artist in-house, and it's really amazing. But then we'll be able to use all of these original artwork to be able to do anything with, whether we want to do comics or stories or videos, or whether we want to do video games or things online. But we can use this IP that we created in basically any way that we want. So that'll be fun, considering that my background comes from television and film, and out here in Hollywood I have a lot of networking and a lot of relationships. Plus the people in my atmosphere, are bringing a lot to that too. So, be really interesting to see how we can, expand that also.
Wow, that just blew my mind. And I know you talked to me a little bit about it at VCon, and I got it a little bit, but now that I know more about you, your story, I hope people at home, I can connect. I'm connecting dots. I connect dots for a living. I feel like it's like my gift from God that He has allowed me to connect dots all over the place and then be able to I get it. I get because of your unique background, and now this unique technology. Remember 20 years ago there was that unique technology that He did something with people, and now He's using His life experiences. He's using his travel, his love of God, and the missions-minded human that he is, and the fact that he's been so blessed, I can tell. And he's still young. I mean, he's still as Gary would say, you still got 50 years, Danger Dave, and you're gonna
right?
use all this for good. And wow, it's so inspiring. That's inspiring, brother. That is I'm thinking I see what you're doing with the characters now, and you're going to be able to educate and teach, people more about God and about what it means to be a Christian, and you're going to be able to do that in a fun way. I know you because you're a fun guy. You're going to be able to do it creatively. It's going to be like the new version, the high-tech version of us going to Sunday school when we were little. It sounds like.
It is. And that's a big part of this also is, there's so many people that have been hurt by the church that are just really, really hurt. And there's a lot of people that have experiences with Christians that have a different view of Christianity than I do. So I think a lot of this too is going to be able to right a lot of these wrongs and show them a different version of Christianity than they're used to. I'm in a non-denominational section of Christianity. And so, that's just where I believe in more the spirituality than the religion. And I think that and you hit the nail on the head. That's where I was going is I am a New Testament subscriber. And I am one of those people that I truly believe that, Jesus died for that relationship to abolish that law so that we truly need to live in a state of non-judgment and love. And it's a very simple thing to say, not judge anybody and love everybody. But let's just get real. Most people don't adhere to that. And so that's kind of the new standard that I want to bring out to people that either don't have much experience with, Christian religion, or the experience they have maybe were, experiences where people were hurt, were abused, were, put down on, were made to feel lesser than, and to say that's not what this is about. We're here to love everybody and to be there for everybody and to not judge anybody. And so, I really think that's also part of this project is really bring a new understanding to people of what Christianity is.
Wow, there's a lot to unpack there, and I feel like we're gonna have to have you back because I could definitely go down a rabbit hole with you on some of that stuff, and I think that wow, that's interesting. Man, I have so many more questions. They tell me if I go too much longer than an hour, though, people start to tune out. So like we
can always have episode 2, my friend.
Oh, well, no, we're going to have to do episode 2 and literally deep dive about this project and also kind of like, because, man, like with Christianity and religion, religion is basically, in my estimation, is man's attempt to create their own kind of, rules and patterns and like business. And I got one question for you, and we won't, because this will maybe hook the audience into coming back to listen to more. Why is it going to be any different for Danger Dave is like the leader or the group of people that you assemble? Why is it going to be any different trying to go down that path rather than all the other stuff? Like, so how do you tell somebody that's maybe like on the fence, like who's Dave and why does he think he can pull this off and change humanity?
Are we talking about religion or the project?
Well, just I don't know, like where you're going with this. It's like you want people to be attracted to the project because because I feel like we have similar, right? But like man has been, we are guilty of following the man, right? Instead of following Jesus and God.
You hit the nail on the head there. Spirit, look, we're as humans, we're all looking for the truth, and we're all kind of searching for the truth. So we're all normally on some kind of a path at some age to kind of find out what that is. And then we all have our own experiences to kind of, I can't ever believe something because somebody told me. I can only believe something because I experienced it. And I think most people are like that. So, they're going to go and experience all of this. But sorry, I got distracted. I got way distracted on that one.
No, that's because there was a car going down and and like every time a motorcycle comes down the road, because I don't have a sound, there's a window right here and I don't have a soundproof. There goes another one. That's wild. Sorry about that.
Let's reset. What was the question? Just so we can reset.
So like for the people that are listening,
Yeah.
that are, you know, that have had those negative experiences in church and religion
Yes.
and stuff like that, what makes this project any different? And what would you tell
Okay,
people? What would you tell people that had those bad experiences
Gotcha.
or are having great experiences right now? Like, why follow you in this project?
The number one thing that, regardless if you had good or bad experiences, is one of the major focuses that we're doing with this project is it's actually twofold. With how the money is being spent. One of the number one rules with how the money is being spent is that no organization that receives the money can in any way hurt anybody, right? Like nobody in any sexuality, color, race, religion can be persecuted or hurt for any way or any reason by this money, because that's not what we're here. We're here to love and not judge. So that's the first framework that we have to take away, and I put that in, you know, in borders so that, you know, we say, okay, we can understand that. And then after that, you know, you just it's how. It's the fact. Sorry, I'm man, this is horrible. I am having a big brain fart on this one. This is a bad ending on this one.
No, it's great, man. Listen, you're just speaking from the heart. It was a tough question.
Yeah.
Because it's again, it's like we get in it because we're all yeah. This is like a whole nother podcast, really.
Yes,
no, it is.
exactly.
I'm sorry. I should have asked that last question. That was
like, wow.
That was me being like, oh my gosh, there's more here. But yeah, no, there's
you know, a lot of it is right now we're in a place that United States, we are the number one giving country and we love to help others, right? But there's so much of it has gone to waste. You know, we've gone through given to United Way and these big organizations. And what happens is so much of it gets wasted. So much of it goes to administration cost. And we actually, when you write that check, you have no idea how it's being used and what is done with it, right? Where people now, we want to still give, but we want to do the direct cause giving. We want to give to the end user, and we want to know that it's being used appropriately, right? So that's what we're doing here, is having full transparency on how all funds are being used. And then not only is it full transparency, but you actually have ownership of it. So you have direction on where it's going and even what projects it is within that. So you have ownership, you have transparency, you have involvement, and the involvement can be at any level you want, from writing a check to checking once a week to checking every day to actually going there in real life. It just depends on where you want to be. But that's the difference, is you get to actually be involved and see how it is. Now, the difference is of all nonprofits, this is obviously a Christian-based nonprofit. So these are going to go to Christian organizations. But, you know, like I said, it's going to be organizations that are all fully vetted, and that we are very well that the money is going to go into places that nobody's being hurt, nobody's being prosecuted or judged, and that we're truly helping all of humanity, you know, get to a better place.
Well, and that's a beautiful thing. And I think that you are uniquely positioned. If anybody could pull it off, I feel like because of your history and because of your work and because of your reputation, I mean, I'm excited to watch the journey, follow it, participate. And I'm just really learning about this today as everyone else is listening to it. And I know this is going to be launching later in the year, so there's be more to come. It's called 5149 Studios. It's going to be the Foundation's NFT. And it's going to be charity work and 501c3 on steroids because of the transparency and the technology of the blockchain. Mastered with the guy behind the project is got a passion, and he's got good intentions, and everything's going to be able to be documented on the ledger, and everybody's going to be able to see where it all goes. The only downside that I see, if we're going to get technical for the naysayers out there, is maybe once it leaves the NFT world, because right now there's still a lot of organizations that aren't completely set up on the blockchain. But again, as long as I always was told that as long as you give with the giving heart, and once that leaves your hand, it's up to the church or it's up to the organization to be the good steward of that money. It's not up to you to have to micromanage it.
It is. No, it's not.
Because
you're right.
Because God allows it to if it's come from a good heart and as transparent as you've been, was just even sharing some of the information today. And I hope my listeners at home really start to understand that don't buy any NFTs right now. Just go and just do some research, right? And understand about the technology of the transparency and what you're actually able to do, and what he's talking about with you can own a portion of it. You'll have voting rights. They'll be in a community they'll build a community. They'll say, hey, do we want to give to the United Way or the Red Cross today? And, how much do we want to give? And it's based on voting units and ownership and a set of rules that have already been established. And I see where this is coming, man. I'm excited for you. So we'll just wrap it up at that, because as soon as it launches is when I'm going to have you come back on. That's when I'm going to have you come back on. And if there's anything that I can do.
We're going to be looking for July. We're going to be rolling out Discord, social medias, websites. So that way we'll be able to get a lot more information. And then we'll be able to actually have a mint date and a launch date. So, yeah, I would expect July we'll be able to have more public information on that.
That's awesome. And I really appreciate you being here. There's a thing I do at the end of every podcast. I ask 5 questions. So it's kind of rapid fire. You're going to be going to an island to live by yourself. Okay. What book would you take with you?
Purpose Driven Life.
Wow. That's an awesome book too.
Yeah. Rick Warren,
yeah. Out of Atlanta.
I can't even remember right now, but yeah, somewhere like that.
All right, so you're gonna take a movie with you that you're gonna have to replay and replay and replay, because you're only gonna take one movie with you. What movie is it, Mr. Hollywood?
It would have to be a comedy if I got to replay it that many times. It would have to be a comedy. I'm thinking like an old school or something Will Ferrell-ish, or that whole crew, or maybe even Fridays-ish or something.
Wow, okay, Friday. All right. My last guest, who was on here, Alex Tampluski, the TikTok guy, he said Dumb and Dumber, so I figured,
Yeah, that world, Wedding Crashers. But it'd have to be not necessarily my favorite movie, but definitely a comedy if I got to watch it that many times. Yeah.
So is the book, the movie. All right, restaurant. You can put a restaurant there. Which restaurant can be famous? It could be not so famous. Whatever your favorite restaurant is that you could eat at, every day.
It'd probably have to be Prime 112 in Miami, South Beach, even though Mastro's out here in Beverly Hills is a close second.
Yeah, I like Mastro's. I like Mr. Chow's. I was actually out at Beverly Hills Mr. Chow's for NFTLA, and I took Jeremy and Sal and Mikey, and then Brittany came with me.
That duck sounded amazing.
Duck. Yeah, you heard about that, huh? Yeah. And then, all right, so you're allowed to take one trip. You're the traveler, man. You've been all over the world. Where is your favorite destination? Where are you going to go?
That's easy. That is so easy. There's only one place. Bora Bora, my friend. Bora Bora.
See, I got goals now, man. I can't. I'm excited to be friends with you, Danger Dave. You're going to push me. I always never wanted to get on a plane and go that far away, because I'm kind of a bigger guy, and I don't know if I can stomach the first class money. But I think I'm going to have to. I'm going to have to start traveling. Brittany's going to be happy to hear that I'm going to be friends with you, because you're definitely going to do that. All right, and here's the big one. You're allowed to spend a day with one person, okay? You can only pick one, and I know it's tough, but you have a chance to spend a day with one person. Who's it going to be?
Probably my mom.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You guys still pretty close?
No, I've lost her about 10 years ago now, I think. We lost her to cancer, so.
Oh, wow. So we'll bring her back with some of that technology, and you get to spend 24 hours with her. Wow, that's special. That's awesome. If people want to get in touch with you, learn more about you, what's the best way to reach out to you and follow you?
You can find me Danger on Twitter. That's D8NGER. You can also just always look up my name, David Matheny, and that's MATHENEY. And then you can always look at 5149studios.com.
Still in the .com world, huh? Gonna keep it mainstream.
Yeah.
We're gonna bridge the gap,
old
right?
school.
Yeah, old school.
Need to get the IO, right?
Yeah, or .eth, or I don't even know some of that stuff.
Hey, well, I got a danger.eth. I mean, if you need that.
There you go. Well, listen, I really appreciate you joining me today on the show. I'll be honest with you. I've probably filmed, I don't know, or did probably 25 of these now, and I want to say this is probably my favorite one so far. This was really good.
That means so much, man.
I'm
really
excited
that.
to hear about the journey. I mean, I want to ask, man, there's so many questions I have for you. Like, you've had like such a magnificent life. Everything you told us was so awesome and blessed and just great. It's like, and again, we'll save it for the next show. It's like, what adversity have you ever had to overcome? I know you just said you lost your mom to cancer, but like, I want to hear some like adversity to where, because it just seems like your whole life is just like, you're living the dream, man. Like you're living the dream. So we'll get to know Danger Dave a little bit more. We'll have him back on the show later this fall, and we'll wrap it up today, man. Thanks again for being here.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. We really appreciate it. I look forward to coming back, and I can't wait to do it again. Love our friendship, and can't wait to hang out a lot more.
Thank you for listening to the Big Fish Cares podcast.